Can you describe the stem and its variants a little more specifically? You said bass lines and melody. Are those the two?
And beats. And then there's the visual representation of those. So the beats, we thought would be a really great way to represent the different dancer images. So if you change a beat to the between the first, second, or third one, the dancer image changes. And then at the same time, if you change the melody, the border changes. And then when you change the bass, it changes the background. One of the beats is like a four on the floor, like sort of with big toms. And then another one is like a simple beat, but with tabla. And then the third one is like more like hip hop and more intense sounding, and then those bass lines are different as well. And then David can describe what he did differently on the melodies.
Yeah, all the songs are following the same arrangement. So like when you swap them out, it'll go to the B section or the chorus at the same time. So the melody will change at the same time. I did 3 different instruments. I did like a bowed banjo kind of sound, which sounds like a more of a violin sound. And then I did a plucked melody for one, and then a melodica, which is like a blow piano for the other. So they're very, very different, but they all work because they're in the same key. So you can swap them out, but they'll give you very different moods. And then the bass lines, we experimented as far as different tones, like different synth variations. Just trying to get different tones along with different bass styles. So yeah, it's really cool to see how many different variations we could make that all work together. That was the trick.
Hey peeps, what's up? I'm Anne-Marie Alanis, and this is Rare Digital Verd, a series about artists, their creations, and their experiences, both good and bad, using blockchain technology. In episode 8, I talked about a couple of platforms and blockchains people have been exploring outside of Ethereum and some reasons why. Guide your cursor up here for the link to episode 8. Now let's get back to the Ethereum blockchain and revisit Async Music and what's happened since the first wave of async musicians changed music history. Yes, music, not just NFT music, but music history in general. These artists, namely Mighty 33 and Connie Digital, RAC, Verdigris Ensemble, and HMLTD dropped the world's first ever customizable and programmable music creations through Async Art's music platform. In case you haven't seen episode 7, which I think you should, here's a quick rundown of what Async is. Async Art is a digital platform that allows you to make art that changes over time without knowing anything about coding. Changes are based on data like statistics and time. If you're familiar with Photoshop, then you'll get this next part. The artist provides menus of changes or variants, and the collectors of these menus get to customize the art's layers, changing the look of the overall piece. Late last month, Async launched Async Music. Music created on Async Music is composed of a single master track NFT and multiple stem NFTs, just like a programmable artwork. Stem NFTs are effectively the same as layer NFTs. They have the ability to change what the current master track both looks and sounds like. If you watch the beginning of this video, Sidecar Tommy and David Satori from Beats Antique do a good job of explaining the variants for each of the bassline, melody, and beats stems, which make up their new dynamic customizable song, Interchange. They're a part of the second wave of musicians dropping these leading-edge works on Async Music. Be sure to check them out on async.art. So what happened after the first ever launch of programmable music with the first wave of musicians? The latest conversations on Twitter have been asking whether it's about the money or about the art and music. Why can't it be both? The music industry as it is messy and corrupt as far as artist payments, royalties, rights distribution, and music licensing go. Like Duke said from HMLTD, you're going to have to get exploited so much in order to make just a little amount of money. Record contracts are made to enslave you, just to make you work like crazy, so that people can make profit from your work. speaking from experience. So I'm happy to share that the first drop of programmable music was a slap in the face to those who would take advantage of working musicians. In other words, it was a success at a total of 93 ETH. That's just over 355,000 for those who don't know that 1 ETH equals 1 ETH. Metapurse, Veritas, and Maximo NX topped the Async Music collector list for Verdigris Ensemble's Betty's Notebook. RAC's Circular is next at a total of 49 ETH, shared and owned by Lot 555, Metapurse, and an anonymous collector. SwiftEagle.eth, Maximo NX, and one anonymous collector own and share control over the master and stems of HMLTD's Leaving at 41.9 ETH. That sure beats the 6 cents that they earned for the year on Spotify a few years ago. And Mighty 33 and Connie Digital's Token Jukebox garnered 18 ETH, which is over 50 grand at the time of the sale. Peeps, this is unprecedented in the music world, to earn this much from one work. Maybe this will be a little encouraging for you if you're an artist who's considering exploring the crypto art and music world, or if you're a blockchain dev interested in creating something better that artists will want to use. If that's the case, then consider clicking on the subscribe button and the notification bell. One thing to note is that the collectors of these works haven't been very active in allowing the listening public to hear all possible combinations that these musicians worked so hard to present to the public. Is it because limited access to the work would make it more valuable? That's my wild guess. It's a reality I'm willing to accept if it means that musicians finally get to reap the rewards of their work, allowing them a tool to create more financial freedom for themselves. Speaking of freedom, here's a band that found freedom in the rules that the Async Music platform provided for them. Beats Antique. Beats Antique is not only an experimental world fusion electronic music group. They create a full experience with performance art and sets thanks to one of the group's founding members, Zoe Jakes, a notable pioneer in belly dance fusion. She's not only the lead dancer of the group, but to enhance the unique type of belly dance fusion choreography that she's known for, she actively co-creates and influences the composition of the music produced by the other members of the band, David Satori and Tommy Sidecar Cappel. It was through Zoe Jakes and music and entertainment legend Miles Copeland that Beats Antique formed back in 2007. Something important to note, David is a staunch supporter of sustainability. At 20 years of age, he put in the work to find out how to get his tour bus to run on recycled vegetable oil. He's co-founder of Sustainable Living Roadshow, of which Beats Antique has been involved. According to the website, Sustainable Living Roadshow is a caravan of educators and entertainers who tour the country in a fleet of renewable fuel vehicles to empower communities and individuals to utilize sustainable living strategies for a healthier planet. With their recent foray into the Ethereum blockchain, working with Async, and with David even minting a couple of his visual artworks on both Foundation and Zora, it may seem ironic that they'd be involved. But to those who have dug deeper into what is actually happening in and around the NFT space as far as ecological sustainability, it's no surprise that Beats Antique would want to integrate this ever-changing and improving technology into their lives in anticipation of the long-term benefits it will bring to the world.
There we go. Hi.
Hi.
This is Luna.
Hi, Luna. Oh my gosh, look at you. You look so happy. Hey, Tommy, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
Doing well.
Good to see you again.
Hey guys, yeah, I'm on this ranch in Utah. Here, I'll show you guys a photo. So here,
Wow, really beautiful. David, I know that you were out there with Dirtwire.
yeah, of my other project, and yeah, we're out in the wilderness, so it's hard to get reception, but we got it working now.
How about you guys introduce each other, and while you're doing that, say at least one positive thing about each other. Like, yeah.
I'm Sidecar Tommy, and I play drums, make beats, write songs, produce, and enjoy myself thoroughly in Beats Antique. And I get to collaborate with two amazing people. Zoe, who is an amazing friend and awesome dancer and really funny, and does funny things on her phone after shows. And then also with David Satori, who is an awesome melodic maker, a dope guitar player, and a rad human being. And we just do our thing and have fun.
Yeah, hey, I'm David Satori. I'm with Beats Antique. Yeah, I play guitar, violin, banjo, melodic stuff, and produce the music with Tommy and Zoe. And we've been doing this for like over almost 15 years. And yeah, Zoe's a huge inspiration with her powerful ability to channel through dance and speak through dance, and her rhythm is amazing. Um, and her sense of composition has affected our music through dance, which is a really unique relationship. Tommy is the beat maker and producer and mad scientist of creating all sorts of different vibes and worlds that we get to create. And so, yeah.
Well, I'm Zoe. I'm a dancer, do composition, and help with arrangement. And I just am really grateful to be working with these two guys. And I think that both of them have incredibly unique ways of looking at music that I think is really unusual and something you don't find every day. And I think that it's been really awesome to work with two people that are also really good at listening to the dance and the way that it changes the music. And I think it's I do think it's a really unique and special relationship that the three of us have together. So I guess my my compliment would be on just the trio and how I think the three of us have a really interesting voice when we work together, and it's really unique and there's nothing like it.
So Beats Antique actually started because of you, right, Zoe?
Yeah, I was on tour with Belly Dance Superstars, which is a terrible name for a dance, bunch of great dancers, and the person who ran the whole shebang, Miles Copeland, had a music label, like a world music label, and he needed music, and he was talking about it one night after a show, and I told him that I thought that I knew the right people and I could put a group together and we could make some music for his label. So that's how the whole thing started.
I think it would be interesting to actually go even further back in time, and if you guys could tell me a story of how you even got into music and dance in the first place.
So I've been into music my whole life. Both my parents were musicians, and they were both music teachers. And so I was exposed to music at a young age, and just thought it was, as easy as talking, as far as like, go do that on the piano. And it was super fun, and I was encouraged big time to just find my own voice in music. And that's kind of what both of my parents would teach, aside from the technical stuff of music, just the feeling of music and what it does for you, and what that would in turn do for others that are listening. And so I started really early. I got into a band as soon as I could with my friends, and I played the talent shows when I was trying to show off in front of people and make people like me more. And it worked. And it was like a lot of fun. I had a lot of friends from different high schools too, so I had a few different projects going on when I was young. I was in marching band, I was in symphonic band, and played music at my church, and did a lot of traveling with that as well. So yeah, I grew up in the DC area, balancing between underground crazy music and classical music. So that's my background.
Zoe, and were you both on a marching band?
Yeah, we both did Extra Action Marching Band together, and Yard Dogs Roadshow.
Yeah, and those two bands definitely, I think, had a huge influence on the type of music that we were into. Obviously, with the marching band, we were influenced by Eastern European marching band music, was something that we heard early on when we were doing our thing with the marching band. And the Yard Dogs Roadshow's kind of propensity for being influenced by old Americana, I think, also had an element of inspiration for us too.
And how about you, Zoe? How did you get into dance?
My mom put me into ballet when I was really young because my sister was in ballet and tap and all that stuff, and I did it for a long time, but I wasn't that into it. And then actually left home. I was in college and I was doing the whole, trying to be like be mature and responsible, and I was going to university. I was paying my way through university, which is a lot easier in Canada. It's much cheaper. So it was
Good to
actually
know.
doable. Yeah. And so I was in doing university and, had like 3 jobs and was just hitting everything really hard. Then I just went on a trip to the States with my boyfriend at the time. And I think I was 17, and I discovered the Renaissance Fair, which I saw a bunch of music and dance there. And I was like, this is cool. And I pretty much just didn't sign up for the next semester and went down to the States and traveled around and kind of never left. I went to the States, found belly dance, and just kept doing it and did odd jobs around so I could just keep dancing. So that's pretty much my backstory.
Got it. Got it. How about you, David?
Yeah, I grew up in Burlington, Vermont, heavily influenced by like the live jam, East Coast funk music, and jam band improvisational music, sort of led by Fish. So I got to see Fish in their hometown. That's where I was from. And so that had a big inspiration when I was younger. Played in a band in high school, sort of discovered music with my brother. My family wasn't a musical family. And then I got into music school. I was in a band, went straight to California and studied world music and composition at California Institute of the Arts. And then my second year there, I went to Burning Man when I was 19. And that sort of, between going to Cal Arts and Burning Man, really opened my mind to all sorts of music, electronic music at that point. And that's sort of where electronic producing and Reason and these electronic programs, and moved up to the Bay, and then saw Extraction Marching Band at Burning Man, all these other places, and found out that we had some mutual friends. We got introduced to Tommy, and me and Tommy jammed, and then saw Zoe perform, and we were all sort of in the same scene in San Francisco. And then we just all met. Me and Zoe started dating, and like the band started to form after that. And the Bay Area Burning Man scene had a lot to do with sort of crafting our sound, and had a huge influence on that. The performance art scene, Yard Dogs and Extraction, and West Coast bass music, electronic music. So
I recall you saying that one of your inspirations was Fish. What else has inspired or is inspiring your work right now?
I love listening to up and coming producers of electronic music and all other genres as well. But I really love the vast soundscapes that I've been hearing lately, and just the way that a different mind can interpret how to do something. And I've been finding a lot of inspiration by literally random searches on Spotify for stuff, and just kind of seeing what my friends are pushing out there and all that stuff. Obviously rhythm is a big thing in my life, and so I listen to a lot of different kinds of music to sort of feel what people are dancing to, and that's kind of how I go about it. But I love hip hop, down tempo, dub, and also like world music and stuff like that. So all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like experimental electronic music is a huge influence, together with traditional music from around the world. Drawn to traditional music from Africa and India, but I love like sort of cutting edge electronic music from like Amon Tobin was a early influence on the band. I was just listening to this group last night called Forest Swords, which is another interesting group I've been listening to recently. So yeah, all this.
Currently being inspired is definitely, it feels a lot different than what it was inspiring me before. These days I feel like all I hear is like Coco Melon, which is a kids TV show, Coco, and kids lullabies and stuff. Honestly, like my early inspirations was what was happening on a more underground level with, the Bay Area music scene was pretty vibrant and kind of ridiculously amazing about 15, 20 years ago. And there was innovative, unusual, creative, weird artists playing. Like it felt like every weekend there was something incredible and mind-blowing. And there was also a lot of performance art. You know, Extraction Marching Band had a lot of performance art, the Your Dogs Roadshow, but a lot of bands had a lot of crazy performance art. For instance, I'm going to bring up someone that'll probably crack Tommy up. Extreme Elvis was yeah, he's foul artist, but absolutely mind blowing. He's Elvis impersonator, and he was a real big guy, and he you know, his whole act was that he was, I would say, kind of like twisting the, you know, 50s aesthetic of Elvis and making it in. His motto was every generation gets the Elvis it deserves. He would drink and do all sorts of gross stuff I'm not really going to talk about, but it was disgusting. But he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. And the reason I'm bringing him up is because I felt like there was a lot of messy art happening that was taking a lot of risks, and that was a beautiful place to be because it's very fertile ground when you see all these artists taking risks on a level that it just opens it up. So I would say for me, it was the scene itself of the Bay Area 15, 20 years ago, and everybody just doing, honestly, like the weirdest, wackiest art I've ever seen. And things that came out of it were Burning Man and a lot of the festivals, a lot of the artists that were coming out of that, and then it were like a more polished version of the absolute messy shit they were creating, you know. And we all got to be a part of that, which was really special.
I second that. Yeah. Coming from, for me, like I came from a more educational background in music, and I ended up going to Berklee College of Music and studying there. And then I went to New York, and then I came here, and it was like I got here and I was like, oh, sweet. Like there's a better excuse to do fun stuff than studying music. And so that's when I want to kind of bundled everything up I learned and tossed it behind my back for the future, and like just checked out a bunch of crazy art and see how, you know, how can we create something the next level each time. And it was just super fun. I mean, I don't think that there was any sort of I mean, there was a ton of support is what I mean. You know, you could tell somebody like, hey, this is what I was thinking of doing, and it could be literally the craziest thing ever, and somebody will be like, awesome, I'd love to check that out. Like, and so it was just a fervent time of going, just express, and it was just super fun. I mean, I that Extreme Elvis show that we did was amazing. We performed Black Sabbath, the first album, with Extraction Marching Band and Extreme Elvis as Ozzy, and
Wow, that sounds
it's
epic.
one of my, yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites.
Wow,
But yeah,
wow.
that sort of just describes kind of like sort of some of the elements that sort of reach us to where we are today, where we just like to have fun on stage. And for me personally, uh, seeing the things that I saw back in those days, just really made me want to participate. It made me want to go see what they were going to do next and try other things and try to collaborate as much as possible. But really, just get on stage, have fun, involve the audience as much as possible, and just have a good time and leave it on the stage.
That would be a good bridge into your thought process and your creative process when creating your music or even just the whole production.
We really vibe off each other and play each other music and see what kind of sparks some energy into one of the others. And we just bounce ideas off of each other, and they're pretty vast, so we don't have to reach very far because I think we all, you know, think differently. And so when we each put our pieces into the mix, it just sort of comes out as this sort of diverse song. um that's like the overview of it. As far as the technical stuff, you know, we use Ableton Live, and we record a bunch of stuff here at our studio, and we put that together and, you know, create the sonic landscape that we end up with.
For this collaboration, it was really special to have like these variables to play with. So I think like we were really inspired to like explore different textures and different ways of, it was like a puzzle. So it was really cool how that spawned different music. And it went from just a rhythmic beds to like experimenting with different melodic stuff. Tommy came up with some beats, and then we explored with different versions of instrumentation on top of it, and each instrument always gives a different inspiration. Then starting to look at what the visuals were with that, so it was a really unique way of making music, which we never have done before. And I thought that just sort of came together, and first time we fully collaborated in a while is COVID, so it was like a fresh start to making music. And yeah, we sort of in a way we went back to our roots. We went back to the sort of more minimalist drums and like minimal melodic elements, which yeah, was refreshing to get back to that.
It's really neat too, because what we experienced was really cool. Basically, when you write a song together as a collaboration with people, somebody's part, like many parts get thrown away, right? They just get lost out into the ether because, you know, you have to make something specific, you make these decisions, that's what happens. In this project, it was really cool because we didn't feel that pressure to make the final decision on everything. We just, because the way that it's structured is that each part can go with the another part. So baseline from version 1 can replace baseline 3, you know, and it can go with each of the other parts of the song. So in essence, we got to put out, you know, multiple songs at once without having to make the decision, and let actually the listener make the decision as to what they want to hear, which I think is a really unique and interesting thing. I found it very refreshing actually to collaborate in that way.
I see we're talking about Interchange right now, which is the project that you're working on with Async. But before we get into that, I'd love to hear from Zoe about your creative process when putting the production together.
This particular project was mostly David and Tommy, so I wasn't a huge part of this one. Really just the costuming and getting the dancers together. But if we're talking like in general,
Yeah, in general.
the creative process it can be so different. And this is something that is really fascinating about Beats Antique, is sometimes, you know, David or Tommy will be working on a track and it'll be like just an idea that they're working on, and I'll take it into the studio and I'll work on it and play around with like combinations and choreography, and then through that is where I have my feedback, and I'll say, oh, I love it, and it would be really awesome if there was some more space, or it's great and I love that horn section, or can you extend this section because it'd be really nice to have a build there. So I would say these days, that's the biggest part of like my process and how I've been working with the Beats Antique music a lot.
I'll put a side note in there that it, as a music producer and a songwriter, it actually is really, really, really cool, because I've never worked with someone until I worked with Zoe that actually just literally embodied the music and then, you know, came up with ideas based on that, you know, that movement. And so for me, it creates, it's funny because we speak different languages, but we're saying the same things, right? So it's like, oh, you want to hit, like understanding what it is that kind of that movement is going to need next is it's a never ending communication. It's super fun and different, and it's challenging as well, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally relate to that as a dancer myself. And I think that's so interesting how Zoe can add to that creative process. That's really great. So let's go back to Interchange. You talked about creating these different parts to the song and making sure that they combine in a way that works together, keeping it simple, things like that. Can you tell me more about it? What is it for people who don't know what it is? How is it different from what you've done before? Why is it called Interchange?
It's called Interchange because we were really thinking about, well, like, what does this piece represent? And Interchange is an NFT that is going to be debuting on the Async platform. Async is a platform that features NFTs, and it's sort of pushing the boundaries of NFTs, which are just sort of hitting hitting the world right now. And you can actually interchange the bass, drums, and melodic elements of the song. There's 3 different melodies, 3 different bass lines, and 3 different drum beats. And with correlating with them, there's 3 different images. Like the melody has an image, the drums have an image, and the bass. So if you change one of them, you'll get a different image. So it's creating 9 possible pieces of art. And so that's where we're thinking about, like, how can we encapsulate the meaning of this piece? And we're interchanging all these pieces. And so that was the idea of like naming it Interchange, because that's what you're actually doing with this async NFT. And it was really cool to hear how different bass lines and the different, bass line 2 with melody 1 sounds different and creates another piece of art. Interesting way to work. And it really sort of pushed our comfort level, because we never created like that. But yeah, came up with some interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like David said, it was super interesting to see what actually came up and what kind of things would work, and whether, like, little funny things like, do we want it to all have the same breaks and stuff like that. And so it's like trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle, but the jigsaw puzzle can actually come together in a multitude of ways. So it's funny. It was kind of a bizarre way of of working, but it turned out to be really beautiful and really freeing. Yeah.
Yeah, can you get more into that freeing part? I know you touched on it a little bit, how, in the past, you probably had to decide on the way the final product would be. Can you
Yeah.
talk more about that type of freedom that it gave you?
Well, it's kind of in 2 ways. In the simple way, it's just that we didn't have to make any. The amount of decisions that we had to make were actually less, because there was more opportunity for decisions to be made. The interesting, intricate part is that I think as a songwriter, it's really hard to, you come up with something and you naturally respond musically to what you're trying to get to. Then the next person is like, oh, but the person you're collaborating with is like, well, I don't really like that. It's not like I don't really like it. It's more like, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And in that, you find yourself sort of attached to certain things, or you gravitate towards certain things, and it can be difficult to let go of a creative idea. I mean, it's I mean, we're all like children in a way, where we hold on to these things, in unreasonable ways. And so the freeing that I'm speaking of specifically is the fact that, quite honestly, me and David didn't have to have a huge discussion about whether we're going to keep this one or that one, or and to be honest, it actually that freedom led to the next song that we started working on, actually us to be able to come up with even a new way of communicating about what the song needed and which direction it should go. And so I think it's a really healthy form of songwriting that I don't think I've ever participated in before, because you're like I said earlier, you're constantly editing down to what it's gonna be and what it ends up being, and the audience doesn't know that there's like a whole other world of this music that came down to this one thing, and so it's kind of it's kind of exposing to me about how much judgment we have on each other that's just naturally built into the art of writing songs together and creating a cohesive unit out of more than just yourself. And so it was freeing for me personally just to experience that as well, and I want to explore more of that.
You created a song after doing this project, and you're saying your experience with Interchange on the Async platform actually helped you to grow and affected or influenced how you
Yeah.
were creating this next song. Oh, that's so great. Yeah.
Yeah, because specifically what happened is that I really wanted a part to be in a song, and David wanted a different part to be in the song. And what it did was it actually, I think, I can only speak for myself, but it gave me um, the idea that wait, there's way other possibilities out there. I'm sort of limiting this thing for its full expression to say it has to be this way, right? And but that's the mindset you get into when you're sort of really jazzed on something and you've got an idea, but you want somebody else's input, or you want to pull everyone in, and just like anything, someone's opinion is going to be completely different, or maybe it's aligned. What I mean is that when it came up to us being like, which part is in it? This part, no, this part. It's like we actually just created a new part, both of us together, without and it actually did much more for the song's movement. So because it was completely different than the other part or the part previous. So that's all I mean. It's just a curious side effect.
What I'm getting from what Tommy's saying is that within the constraints of the puzzle that this NFT is, like with the interchangeable parts, it created the rules and like a structure that we had to figure out how to work in. And by doing that, that allowed us sort of a creative flow that when you don't have rules can be sort of like, oh, I could do anything. But like there was a freedom in the rules, which is sort of like the irony, you know?
I like that version too. That sounds good.
Yeah.
I approve.
Can you describe the stem and its variants a little more specifically? You said bass lines and melody. Are those the two?
And beats. And then there's the visual representation of those. So the beats we thought would be a really great way to represent the different dancer images. So if you change a beat to the between the first, second, or third one, the dancer image changes. And then at the same time, if you change the melody, the border changes. And then when you change the bass, it changes the background. One of the beats is like a 4 on the floor, like sort of with big toms. And then another one is like a simple beat, but with tabla. And then the third one is like more like hip hop and more intense sounding, and then those bass lines are different as well. And then David can describe what he did differently on the melodies.
Yeah, all the songs are following the same arrangement. So like when you swap them out, it'll go to the B section or the chorus at the same time. So the melody will change at the same time. I did 3 different instruments. I did like a bowed banjo kind of sound, which sounds like a more of a violin sound. And then I did a plucked melody for one, and then a melodica, which is like a blow piano for the others. So they're very, very different, but they all work because they're in the same key. So you can swap them out, but they'll give you very different moods. And then the bass lines, we experimented as far as different tones, like different synth variations. Just trying to get different tones along with different bass styles. So yeah, it's really cool to see how many different variations we could make that all work together. That was the trick.
How long did it take you guys to work on this?
It felt kind of fast, right? It felt like 3 days or
a couple of
something.
weeks.
Yeah.
I feel like we did like 2 weeks is like what I felt like we really worked on it. Yeah. A couple days, 2 weeks.
I don't know.
That's a large range.
Okay, but so I just have to clarify. My time is strange during the pandemic because I don't have to be anywhere. So I don't know how long it takes. A while.
So I heard from the other artists who were doing projects on the Async music platform that mastering was kind of weird for them. They had to fake master.
Yeah.
Did you want to touch on that a little bit?
I mean, it's just a technical. It's impossible to do because mastering is the process of taking everything and bunching it to one, and then that one, each thing that's in there affects the way that these things sound, right? Not in a musical way, in a really like in a mix way, in a loudness way, and stuff like that. So we basically couldn't really figure out how to do it. So as far as like, do we put compression on everything? Do we put, what do we, basically the ability to have any of the things play and have it so that it doesn't peak out. Um, and so that was it was a trial and error of how we would do that and getting it as loud as possible you know, without messing with it.
Did you guys want to talk about anything else about Interchange?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about what this implies for the future of creation for NFT art and interactive art. I think it's really cool that each person can own an element of the song. There'd be different owners and different people participating in creating new pieces of art. And this is just sort of scratching the surface of how visual art and music and the audience can start interacting with each other and generating new pieces of works, which I think is going to be the future of a lot of art, and a lot of the interaction on the internet is people creating together and sharing ownership in art and using smart contracts and NFTs to like really account for all that, because artists are not the best business people and the best accountants and giving rights and shares and money. So if that can all be built in to a system that we can all create with, then people can get paid for. And I think it's really exciting. And I'm excited to see what new puzzles are going to start forming, like this puzzle that we were given with Async. Like, what's the next version of that? Like, what are the variables that we can sound design and create for? How does dance come into it, right? Because now we're just working with images. How can Zoe get more involved with actual motion and actual like moving? Where does that come in video? And so, yeah, I'm really excited for the. I think it's like a renaissance for digital art and interactivity.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
I what David was saying just about how it's an opportunity for art to be presented, just the different elements being worked together, I think will be really awesome. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how people are going to move forward with that because it is a pretty amazing opportunity.
Yeah, it's definitely a new medium to work with. So, so we're touching on NFTs, blockchain. So, how did you guys even get into the blockchain NFT space?
David started talking about blockchain like a long time ago, and it was driving us all crazy. And then we finally and then we finally paid attention, and understanding like Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, but really understanding what kind of possibilities the blockchain had for the future of all things, right? Because I think you know in that time we have a lot of creative friends who are also coming up with new ideas and ways to do things differently, that like Zoe and David both said, it's like that gives recognition to the artists for the things that they do, and so I feel like we've always kind of tried new things. Like it kind of started back when we released our first EP together, without any label representation. We did it on Bandcamp and we said, pay what you want. We just want your email address. And I think that kind of harkens to what our future would be. So when any sort of newfangled idea comes up, we're sort of like, well, yeah, let's try it. What is it? Like, let's find out about it. So personally, I've been obsessing over it for the last few months. 4 or 5 months since I first started hearing it just before the new year, and I didn't understand what it was. And through listening to conversations and checking things out and asking a lot of questions on Clubhouse and stuff, it's like I I kind of understood, like, oh, cool, it's this opportunity to actually um, share ownership in a different way, and define ownership in a different way too, and that's pretty cool.
And also, with the rise of Spotify and Pandora and taking away the artist's ability to really make any money off of their art, maybe this will be something that can help kind of bring some more of power back into the artist's hands again.
Speak on that what Zoe just said. It's I find that just in general, we all need to figure out, artists need to figure out how to capitalize on the art that they make, on their intellectual property. And I think we're only given a few options, and those are the options that we sort of just stick to. And quite honestly, the technology has finally kind of moved towards letting artists experience, what it's like for other people to come up with ways for us to make money, because we need to understand it. And I think that it's been very educational for us to sort of look in other places and look in other directions, as opposed to the very strict, very, systematic thing that is the music business. It's now it's ripping it apart and saying, what is it? you know and it
Yeah.
pretty much is becoming, well, what do you want it to be? And
Oh yeah, that's
I
a
want
great
it to
statement.
have, I want to give access to people that maybe didn't have access to things, and also I want to make things that are special to people that do want to support art and do want to further, an artist's life, you know
Yeah. Tommy, you said that David was the one who introduced you guys to blockchain and NFTs. So David, how did you come across it?
Sorry, really quick, I have to run. I have another call, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for
Yeah,
having me here. I really appreciate you, and I'm super excited to see what happens with this.
I'm
So,
so glad
and
you could make it. And
yeah,
yeah, I'm
thanks for
excited to
having
see
me.
you as well. All right, take
Yeah,
care.
take
Hi,
care.
Zoe.
Bye.
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 Oh, I saw a documentary on Netflix. I got to find out which one it was, but it was about cryptocurrencies. I think this was in 2014 or 13. This is a long time ago, like when Bitcoin was just coming out. It was actually around, no, it was a long time. It was like 2010 or 11 when like we were going through that big recession. And someone was taught, it was a documentary, and I started to hear about Bitcoin and alternatives because I was like, wow, I didn't feel confident that our financial systems were going to like make it through the next couple decades. So I was like, something else has to be happening. And so when I started to understand what Bitcoin was and cryptocurrencies, I started to be like, oh, I see that this is the alternative. This is like where we can create a decentralized a system that we all can keep accountability in. And so I understood the bigger idea, and then I got into Bitcoin before the 2015 to 17 rush there. Yeah, 17 was like the last big rush in that. So I've been in it, and I believe it is like the technology of the future. I feel like we will be all moving to digital transactions. I do believe the internet is going to be changing, and I think PayPal and Venmo are all like indications of that. And yeah, I'm excited to, once I understood what an NFT was, it made perfect sense, because that's where we're applying blockchain to actual other things besides a coin that is can be a lot more abstract for people. So even though the NFTs are still abstract and hard to understand for people, I think it'll become easier and easier to understand, especially when like medical records start to be NFTs and all these other things that we are trying to keep track of, that we
Yeah.
lose track of, that are going to help us actually stay on top of our information and our content and control it. So I'm optimistic for it, and I hope, and I think, yeah, I think this is a big opportunity for artists to be more empowered and choose their own adventure on how they want to do this. There's gonna be so many ways in which this unravels, and we'll see what rises to the top, what practices.
Yeah, it's a very hopeful technology. So I know you have to go soon. So do you have any parting words for any of your Beats Antique fans before you leave?
I would say, yeah, Beats Antique is excited to be making new music, and we're super excited to experiment with new ways of audience interactivity, which is what Interchange is experimenting with on the Async platform with this new NFT. And yeah, it's an exciting time, and we're ready to keep making this kind of art, and hopefully you guys enjoy it too. So please go check it out on Async. Check out Interchange.
Thank you, David. I appreciate you coming on. I know that you're in the midst of traveling, so
Oh yeah, no worries. I appreciate your time, and thanks for helping promote this.
you're very welcome.
Cool.
See you soon, bud.
All right.
Talk to you later,
Great meeting you.
Tommy. See you
Take
later,
care.
and nice to meet you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's
All
been
right.
really fun because during the pandemic, it's like we all have to look at each other on video. And David's always like his phone is shaky and his internet connection sucks, and it's kind of like I have like the camera set up. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's very
right,
nice.
and stuff like that. Zoe's like, kid, phone, like life. You know what I mean?
Life, exactly.
And it's like, those three things really show who we are just as regular people. I mean, life happens, right?
Yeah.
I really do focus my time here at the studio and try to like hone things, and David really just goes out into the world and sees things and experiences those types of things, and Zoe really just lives life and interprets life into dance and into her like incredible world that she has created for herself, through teaching and workshops and stuff. So it's kind of, we're sort of all doing our thing as per usual, and especially during the pandemic.
Glad you are. I mean, the pandemic can take a lot out of people. So
Yeah.
the fact that you guys are all staying active and still being yourselves, and I think it's
Even
great.
though that I think I can only speak for myself, but the self has changed in this last year,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think that it's a different time. I feel it. I know it. And I actually am excited for it. I know it was really hard, and I know that we're gonna have a lot of stuff come up because of it, but at the same time, I think it was really healthy for everyone to literally have to take a break, even if you couldn't, and even if that stress made you sick and made you feel bad. I mean, I went through some really tough times during this, and really woke myself up to what some of the things that were really going on for me. And so I think opening it up to all these creative ideas are now sort of floating to the surface. They kind of do that naturally. And so I've been wondering okay, when are all these things that I've experienced through the pandemic gonna float to the surface and actually come out to the people and stuff? When is that going to naturally happen? And so that was what's also cool about this song is that, and this project in general, is that we sort of, it's like this other thing that's out of the norm. So we just kind of went through it and did it, got it done. And it was like, oh, wow, that was really fun to do. It did, it wasn't this laborious task of creating this thing that everybody's just gonna, all the stuff that goes behind making an album or whatever. And so it's cool. But in that time, we made 3 completely different songs that can turn into, I forget the number of combinations there are, but somebody in math could do 3 times 3 times 3 or something.
I'll ask a mathematician. So I was going to say, taking all of that into account, everything you've learned, whether it was in producing Interchange or what 2020 did for everyone, what would your advice be for musicians thinking about doing what you guys are doing?
Explore. The possibilities are literally endless, and I think it's hard to get out of the rut of actually just normal music releasing and stuff. And this is a cool way to collaborate with people either that you're used to collaborating with or that you're not, and really explore what sort of options are there that you would leave there. It's like the only thing I could actually, I was trying to come up with a metaphor, but the only thing I could come up with is it's like catering. You show up and there's a protein. There's an option for it to be meat or vegetarian or but that's protein. And then there's a drink, and then there's the thing. You get the pieces of what you like best. to me, that's amazing to be able to do that as an artist and a musician, to be able to say, um, these are my 3 options, or these are my 20 options, or whatever it is. It's like that's actually never happens in normal music that we make every day. It just doesn't happen. So I think it's a great experience to sort of push the boundaries of what you would do if you had more options than the norm, you know because trust me, you would do something kind of, would you do something radical? Would you do something simple? I think for me, I can't we kind of chose like a safe route a little bit. We didn't go super extreme, but I think if we do another one, we're going to go really extreme with it, because I think we were being a little timid. But I think as artists do, once you get comfortable in a medium, you sort of maximize that medium, right? So I could see creating, more tension within the parts and all this stuff. But you know, but that's for the future. But I think that's what's cool about it, is that any artist who approaches this is going to 100% be completely different than any other artist that's doing the same thing, because it's not just coming up with one thing, it's coming up with multiple things that all work together and collaborate together. And if honestly, to sum that up into what my experience was, if we could do that with our lives, we would be great. If we could collaborate more and actually listen to each other and be like, here's what I think, and your voice doesn't get silenced, it gets magnified. That's amazing. And so I just I see it as a metaphor, and I think that it's like appropriate timing for us.
Wow, that's a great way to look at it. Is there anything else you want to talk about? It
I
could
mean,
be
I
in
could talk
general.
for
Or...
days. We could just sit here. We could just.
Are you a Gemini, Tommy?
I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
I think I'm like a 40 times Scorpio too. Um, super
say. Okay.
super Scorpio. It's like it's like so much Scorpio that it's like I don't even like myself. I'm like,
Oh
no,
no.
stop it. You're so intense. What's your problem? And then I'm like, no, it's okay. Just be yourself. So I can just I don't I haven't talked to anybody in a few days. It's been fun. It's nice to take a break from socializing.
Yeah.
But then when I get the opportunity, it's kind of like I have, infinite time to just talk about whatever. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I really.
You froze, which is
Oh, okay.
am I still frozen?
Yeah, I think you're good. You're good now. I was gonna say I'd really like to hear what you'd like to say to your fans, or anything that you want to tell them. I know you guys haven't had a live show in a while. If there's anything you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a balance of missing the hell out of everyone and everything, and just kind of conjuring up more and more and more and more energy and energy and more energy until we actually get to release it. I'm like excitingly nervous and scared and excited and just like awestruck about what it's going to feel like to go in front of a real crowd again. I mean, it's crazy to even say that to me, because I've always just been doing that. So to our fans, like, we miss the hell out of you. um like, we've been living our lives, you've been living yours. Like, what did you learn? Like, I want to know what you learned. I want to know what you know I want to know all about it. And that's the kinds of things that I find out on the road. So we'll see what happens. I have no expectations or no idea, which is also new, because I generally like to, you know, come up with the goal, plan it, get it, do it, execute it, move on to the next thing, and do that same thing over and over again. And that's kind of how I work. That's how we get things done. eh, but this doesn't have any definitions. It doesn't have any how long is this going to last? Well, it's going to affect us in our industry, in the music industry, for a very long time. And that's for sure. So what I have to say to them is thank you for your patience with us. you know, we thought we would be able to share more. We thought we would be able to do better. But you know, we were just ourselves, and thank you for letting us be ourselves. That's the best gift you can give someone, is to allow them that luxury. And so I feel like I'm caught up, and I feel like I'm like ready to explode as much creativity as I can. I've been making music for me every day during this pandemic, so that I can get through my day and figure out what what to do. And that has led to a lot of new music that's on the horizon, and for both for Beats Antique, but for just kind of the world. I'm sort of like, just give it away. Like I just want people to just take it, you know? So that's kind of fun. I haven't felt like this ever in my life before. So I hope that everyone is also feeling a little bit of that to themselves. And then then when we get back together, we can kind of like see what comes next, you know? That's exciting to me.
Yeah. So speaking of what comes next, things on the horizon, what other projects do you have coming up? Shows? Anything?
We're playing a show. We've got a social distance show in Felton, which is just outside of Santa Cruz, in June. And then we're headed to Colorado. We're going to San Luis Obispo. We're actually doing a Halloween show in Santa Cruz,
Oh, fun.
at the Catalyst. And then we're doing I mean, we're just sort of hoping that all the dates that we have right now stay in place. But that's kind of why I'm not even, usually when we book a show, I remember exactly the date. I remember what show comes before and after, how it all works. At this point, we've had to postpone everything and do that so many times that I don't even know. I don't even know when we're playing, and I'm just kind of I'm preparing for it and hoping that it actually comes. And when it does, I'm going to celebrate it. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're working on a bunch of new music. We have it's been a little while since we've released an album, and we've released a couple singles here and there throughout the last couple years. But we've got a whole bunch of new music that we're working on, and it's really exciting. I am really stoked on it, actually. And we're starting to craft our new shows that we're going to be doing and putting together. So, you know, I everyone should be excited if I'm excited, and I'm excited. So if me being excited excites you, then yeah. If it scares you, then I'm sorry.
Is this a full album that you're going to be putting out, or?
Yes, but we're gonna do it a little differently. Like everything, we're just gonna release singles because to us, like, an album is really an interesting journey. At the end of the day, it'll be an album, but that journey is going to be song by song by song by song, because we feel like an album, the first few songs get you know, the most attention. And quite honestly, as an artist, I want every song to get attention.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
selfishly, we're gonna give it out slow and let people hear this song and sort of take their time with it before the next one comes out. So we'll see how long in between those, probably a month or 6 weeks or something. But you know, it's like being able to tell a unique story for that song is is a luxury, and I can't wait to try it.
I think that that seems very in line with the type of generation we have these days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people are very quick. It's
Yeah,
very quick.
exactly.
And you know, to be honest, a lot of our fans are not like that. You know, we have a
Mm.
wide range of fans of all different things, but it's like, you know, the music business is ever changing, and these days, to kind of keep up with it, you gotta figure out what's next. And this is what we're trying to experiment with. And you know, because if a bunch of people that I know, like, we all talk about music and what's going on in the business and stuff, if they're like, huh, really curious about this, that means that I need to go and get it done, like
Yeah.
as fast as possible, you know. And that's how it works. That's how we kind of grow, and that's how we sort of think. And luckily, with these things, especially with the async thing, David was able to sort of be the guinea pig of understanding this world, and then kind of report back to us like, hey, y'all need to look at this thing. And so, that's how we found out about this. And I think, um, as a band, it's actually been hard to like find things that we're all like, yes, like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
This was really simple because it was like David said, it gave a structure for us to be infinitely creative.
Yeah.
So that was a hard yes from us.
When did you guys actually get in contact with Async?
Our manager, met somebody from Async, and that just kind of, we were all three of us were just wondering about all these things, looking at a bunch of things, talking to a bunch of friends, figuring stuff out, trying to figure out like, how can we participate in these new things, in these new conversations and stuff. And so through that, Max met some folks, and we just had the conversation, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it. We'd love to have you on. And so we just took advantage of that moment and went for it.
Was that last year or
No,
earlier this year?
this was like, it was right around the new year, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I had seen, a couple things on the Async Art side. I'd seen, some friends saying, hey, check out my art here and all this stuff. And I went to it. I'm like, what? How, I can change the art? Like, wow, cool. I can make my own background. And so, as also a visual artist, all three of us are visual artists as well. And so I'm curious to see how that's going to develop. I know David's done a couple NFTs, that is. And then I kind of, being really inspired by the async thing, once that opens up to more artists, I really want to see what I can come up with on my own art. And so I think it's cool because it's like it's piqued my interest, which I think is hard to do sometimes because there's ideas all over the place. There's tons of them, and I know that certain things work. This is the first thing in a while that's opened us up to seeing like, oh, maybe something else can work too, So whenever that happens, I just go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta stay up with the. I mean,
And
things
I can't
happen so
wait to
fast.
see what other people are doing. Like I literally, like, I was looking at some of the other artists, and I'm like, "Oh, I got to go see their stuff now. I can't wait to see it because I'm so curious. Like what did they do? Like, I want to, yeah, I'm a nerd like that. I love to like figure out like, wow, what led to somebody to make decisions and stuff. And so I can't wait. I'm looking forward to the whole thing.
Artists inspiring other artists.
Yeah,
It's
bring it
awesome.
on.
So where can people find Beats Antique? Where can they find your
Uh,
merch? And
luckily, you can just look us up. It's the easiest thing because I mean, the only other things that come up are like Beats headphones, which is fine, but at least it's music related.
are you going to
Yeah,
have Interchange on the website in some way, or
I'm not sure what the plans are. I think that's part of it. It's like usually we would do a certain amount of things, right? But this is something different, so I don't really know how we're gonna work it. I think in the next week or so, we're gonna be really like focusing on that and seeing how to best show people what it is. So if it's possible to have it up there in the many different ways that it could be, then yeah, I don't know, but I don't really, honestly, this is all new. So
yeah, it would be great if your fans could at least see maybe one or two
oh yeah,
combinations.
we definitely want to like show people, hey, this is this new idea, and this is what this is what our sort of interpretations are of it. It's really comes down to finding a player to play it. Like how
Yeah.
so once we can figure that out, I think that would be fun to show the interactivity of it. But yeah, I mean, like, I want to definitely see. I'm curious to see what others decide the song sounds like. That's kind of that's what I'm like. What do you like? And what do you like? And it's it, you know. So that'll be interesting to see. But I definitely we have our three original versions, which would be like correlate number ones were originally written with number ones, number twos were written with number twos, and number threes were written with number threes. So that's kind of how we charted it out.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I think there's from what I've seen, there's some people who are just like, here's a bunch of audio that just goes together in different weird ways, and maybe it's a way more vast changes and stuff like that. Ours is pretty like, you might not know you were listening to the same song, but the vibe or the energy of it, the overall like feel of it is similar, but they just have little tweaks for
Okay.
like maybe this over here or this over here is it just mixes it up. So yeah, my favorite ones are the original ones, the original twos, the original threes. Because those are what we were like, okay, these all work together. Now let's like mute and highlight other ones and see
Yeah.
how they all fit. And
Yeah, so you tested them.
I definitely tested, like each melody with each bass line, each bass line with each drum part, each, because like those things are the important parts. Like if you choose a bass line that goes, it might be in a different style, but it has this, it has the same accent points, so it's funny because but honestly, it's kind of how our songs are anyway. There's like, we take this from this sort of influence over here, this influence over here, and we sort of meld it all into a salad, and I kind of feel like that's what this does, and so I've listened to the song hundreds of times. Maybe I've listened to all the combinations, maybe not, but I think there's been certain times when I'm like, I want to go totally extreme, but that's maybe for the next one.
Yeah.
Like do one really heavy dubstep and one really like classical, and just really see what fun things can happen.
Yeah,
But that's the thing. Like, I think because there's options with that, like I don't feel bad like doing some really hardcore thing that's really loud, because they can choose to go that route or choose to go this other route. And so I think that's really special.
Yeah. Wow. So many opportunities for new things to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So outside of on your website, hopefully that we'll see it, it'll be on async.art as well.
Yeah, and we'll be posting about it on our Instagram and Twitter and stuff, and just,
yeah. And people will have a chance to actually record particular combinations that they like using the limited edition option that Async offers. So that'll be fun to see like what people actually like,
totally.
Or what they want to record.
I'm looking forward to
that. Anything else? Any last words?
Spread the love far and wide, and don't accept anything else.
I like those words a lot.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say to everyone.
I feel like it's a big hug. We all need a hug right now.
Yeah. Big, long, and with, hopefully with no mask on. And hopefully with nothing but pure love. Lots of hugs. No more air hugs. I mean, air hugs are cool, but like, let's try it. Let's try it.
Yeah, I can't wait for a big bear hug from everyone.
Yes.
It'll be nice.
For sure. All right.
Right. That is it. That is the show.
Yay.
And scene. If you haven't already, please help support this channel by subscribing, clicking on the notification bell, and smashing that like button. Thank you, my rare digital birds. Until next time, fly high.